Picture this. You just, walk through those automatic sliding glass doors of a Home Depot or a Lowe's, and you are immediately hit with that incredibly specific smell.
Oh, yeah, that mix of cut pine lumber and, like, fertilizer.
Exactly, and concrete dust. It's so distinct, and you're standing there at the edge of these cavernous warehouse-style aisles. You look up, and there are these massive steel racks towering 20 feet into the air.
Just absolutely packed with thousands upon thousands of products.
Right. I mean, everything from high-tech smart home security systems to the most obscurely sized drywall anchors imaginable. And everything is perfectly, geometrically placed.
There's a lot to take in.
It really is. But have you ever actually stopped while holding your shopping cart to wonder, how did that specific box earn its spot on that specific shelf?
Honestly, most of us never do. I mean, we walk in with a shopping list and just take the sheer overwhelming scale of that inventory completely for granted.
Yeah, we just assume it's magic.
We really do. We tend to assume a manufacturer simply invented a great tool, the store recognized its brilliance, and, well, it naturally found its way to aisle 14.
Like it just belongs there.
Right. But the reality is that the physical shelf space inside a national big box hardware store is like some of the most fiercely contested, ruthlessly monetized real estate on the planet.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. Our mission for this deep dive is to shatter that illusion. The idea that great products just magically appear on store shelves.
Because they definitely don't.
No, they don't. So we are dissecting a step-by-step roadmap to breaking into these massive home improvement retailers. Our source material today comes from Retailbound.
Yeah, which is a really fascinating agency.
It is. Founded in 2008 by Johann Jacob, who is a 25-year veteran of the retail industry. And his team has helped brands launch in over 150 major retailers.
That's a massive track record.
Yeah, it really gives them a unique perspective. So we are going to demystify the high-stakes, highly secretive game of big box hardware retail.
And to really understand this game, we have to start by looking at the sheer scale of the opportunity. I mean, retail giants in the home improvement sector are attracting tens of millions of customers every single week.
Tens of millions. That's just wild.
It is. The visibility a brand receives just by physically sitting on an eye-level shelf across 2,000 store locations, it's unparalleled.
Right. I'd imagine the sales potential can completely transform a company overnight.
Absolutely overnight. But precisely because that real estate is so incredibly valuable, the corporate buyers for these retailers act as, well, hypervigilant gatekeepers.
They're guarding the castle.
Exactly. Their primary job isn't actually to find cool new products. I mean, their job is to ruthlessly protect the profitability of their shelf space.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading through this Retailbound guide, the very first thing that jumps out is the stark reality of how you even approach these gatekeepers.
Yeah, it's definitely not what most people think.
Right. You don't just, find a buyer on LinkedIn and shoot off a quick email saying, hey, I invented a revolutionary new hammer, let's chat. It requires a level of reconnaissance that feels almost military in its precision.
It absolutely does feel military. The manual lays out that before you even think about drafting an email to a buyer, you have to execute this ground-level research phase.
So literally doing your homework.
Tons of homework. You must rigorously analyze the retailer's existing product assortment. And this means physically walking the stores, analyzing their e-commerce categories, and just mapping out the current landscape.
To find out what's missing, basically.
Exactly. You have to answer a few critical questions. Where is the gap in their current selection? Who are the entrenched competitors? And most importantly, how does your product solve a consumer problem in a way that nothing currently on the shelf does?
But I want to push back on this a little bit because, if I'm a manufacturer and I have engineered a demonstrably better product...
Give me an example.
Let's say it's a stud finder, and it is twice as accurate as the leading brand and costs the exact same. Why do I need to map out the entire store?
I see where you're going with this.
Right. Shouldn't a superior product just naturally replace an inferior one? It's a better stud finder.
You are thinking like a consumer. The buyer, though, they're thinking like a real estate portfolio manager.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is how the concept of cannibalization drives almost every decision a buyer makes.
Cannibalization, right?
Exactly. If a buyer already stocks 3 different brands of stud finders, and those stud finders are generating steady, predictable revenue, introducing your new stud finder is a massive risk.
Even if mine is technically better.
Even if it's way better. Because if it just steals sales away from the stud finders they already stock, The retailer hasn't actually made any new money. They have just, well, cannibalized their own sales.
Oh, okay. It's like showing up to a potluck.
A po-
Yeah, think about it. It doesn't matter if you make the absolute best potato salad in the world. If 3 other people already brought potato salad, the host doesn't want yours. You need to bring the dessert that's missing.
That is a perfect analogy. You brought a different $20 sale, sure, but now they have the added logistical headache of onboarding a brand new vendor just to make the same $20.
Right. So they've just swapped my $20 sale for someone else's.
Precisely. That is why the initial gap research is mandatory. Your job isn't to prove you have a better version of something they already sell.
You have to bring the missing dessert.
Yes, your job is to prove you are bringing a completely new capability to the aisle that will attract a customer who otherwise would have walked out of the store empty-handed.
So you're adding to the pie, not just taking a slice.
You have to prove you aren't just shifting their existing revenue around, you are adding net new revenue to their bottom line.
Wow. That dramatically changes how a brand should view their own invention, which leads right into the next major hurdle in the guide.
The compliance phase.
Exactly. Identifying a gap on the shelf is, well, it's the theoretical part. The next phase is brutally physical and mathematical.
Brutal is the right word for it.
Right. This is where you have to prove your product is structurally capable of surviving in their ecosystem.
And this is where so many brilliant innovations just die. I mean, the buyers for these big box hardware stores are completely data-driven.
They don't run on gut feelings.
Not at all. They demand undeniable proof of product market fit, yes, but they also demand strict adherence to their operational standards.
What kind of standards are we talking about here?
We are talking about packaging requirements, labeling standards, safety certifications, and just flawless supply chain logistics.
Let's talk about the packaging and logistics for a second, because the guide gets incredibly specific here. I always assume the cardboard box a tool comes in is just, marketing material.
A lot of people think that.
Right. But it sounds like the physical dimensions of the box can actually be the sole reason a product gets rejected.
It absolutely can be.
Wait, so even if the product is a guaranteed bestseller, a brand can get rejected just because the box is the wrong size. Why would a buyer care if my box is, say, 1 inch wider than my competitor's box?
Because of a concept called the planogram, combined with pallet geometry.
Pallet geometry, that sounds intense.
It is. A planogram is basically a highly detailed 3D digital map that retailers use to plan exactly where every single item sits on a shelf. And I mean down to the millimeter.
Down to the millimeter?
Yes. Every square inch of that shelf is calculated to generate a specific profit margin.
So if my box is an inch too wide, I might be throwing off the entire geometry of that specific shelf.
It's worse than that. It echoes all the way down the supply chain. If your box is an inch too wide, maybe that means they can only fit 40 boxes on a standard wooden shipping pallet instead of 50.
Oh, wow.
Right. And that means every time they order from you, they are paying to ship more pallets, which means higher freight costs. And that eats directly into the profit margin of that item.
That is wild.
Suddenly, your amazing product is mathematically unviable for their distribution centers.
It reminds me of the relationship between computer software and hardware. Like having a world-class race car, but realizing you don't have the right fuel nozzle to pit at this specific track.
That's exactly.
Or like you could write the most brilliant, elegant piece of software in the world. That's your product. But if that software requires 8 gigabytes of RAM to run, and the retailer's operational hardware only allows for 4 gigabytes?
A program is gonna crash.
Right. It doesn't matter how good the code is. The software is useless if it doesn't match the infrastructure perfectly.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. The buyer needs to know your software is perfectly coded for their hardware. And the most critical piece of that hardware is the pricing structure.
Right, the margins.
Retailbound emphasizes that your wholesale price must leave enough margin for the retailer to hit their internal profit targets.
Which are probably pretty high, right?
Big box stores generally need substantial markups. We're talking often 30 to 50% or more depending on the category.
Just to keep the lights on.
Exactly. Just to cover their massive overhead, employee wages, and store operations. If it costs you too much to manufacture your product, and you can't offer them that margin, while keeping the final retail price competitive for the shopper,
then what happens?
The conversation is over. Just like that.
So you have to reverse engineer your entire manufacturing process based on their required profit margin, not the other way around.
Exactly. Showing up with all this prepared in advance saves time and proves to the buyer that you're capable of operating at their massive scale.
Okay, so let's assume a brand has done exactly that. They mapped the shelf gap. Their packaging is perfectly optimized for pallet geometry. Their margins are dialed in.
They've done the homework.
They did all the homework.
Yeah.
And they finally secure that golden, incredibly brief window to actually speak to a buyer. How do you condense all of that operational complexity into a pitch?
You have to master the art of data distillation. The Retailbound guide refers to this as crafting the 30-second sizzle.
30 seconds, that's nothing.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
You do not have time to tell the buyer the emotional backstory of how you founded the company in your garage.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the anatomy of this perfect pitch is entirely devoid of emotion.
It's completely clinical.
Right. It's not just a sales pitch. It's like a legal trial. You're not just saying my product is great. You are bringing exhibits A, B, and C to the jury to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Exactly. The guide mandates that you relentlessly focus on the unique value proposition, how the product drives that incremental revenue we talked about earlier, and you have to showcase undeniable consumer demand.
So you need a pitch deck loaded with proof.
Visuals, sell-through rates, testimonials, demo videos, all required in a polished pitch deck.
Wait, sell-through rates? I've heard that term.
It is the magic word in these meetings. For anyone unfamiliar, the sell-through rate is a metric that tracks how fast a product leaves the shelf once it arrives. It's velocity.
Okay, so speed of sales.
Right. If a retailer buys 100 units of your drill bit and you sell 20 of them in the first week, you have a 20% weekly sell-through rate.
It's kind of like table turnover at a restaurant, right?
Oh, how so?
Well, a restaurant owner doesn't just care that a customer ordered a $50 steak. I mean, they care how fast that customer eats the steak and leaves so they can seat another paying customer at that exact same table.
That is exactly how the buyer's looking at the shelf.
Right. They want products that turn over fast so they can keep ringing up sales on the same square foot of real estate.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to truly empathize with the buyer's psychological state. I mean, buyers at companies like Home Depot and Lowe's are bombarded by hundreds of brands every month.
So they're just overwhelmed.
Constantly. From their perspective, every new vendor is a massive financial and logistical liability.
Because if it fails?
If they put your product on the shelf and it doesn't sell, they are stuck with dead inventory, wasted shelf space, and they personally look bad to their managers.
That's a lot of pressure on the buyer.
It is. Your pitch deck isn't really a sales tool. It is a risk mitigation document. You are bringing them hard data to prove that saying yes to you will not get them fired.
But hold on, that creates an impossible paradox.
How so?
Well, the buyer is demanding a massive portfolio of in-store sales data, sell-through rates, and customer demand metrics to minimize their risk, right?
Right.
But how on earth are you supposed to get that robust in-store data if the buyer won't let you into the store to begin with? It's the classic entry-level job problem. You need 5 years of experience to get the job, but you need the job to get the experience.
It is a massive catch-22.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's where a lot of independent inventors just throw their hands up and give up.
I can see why. It sounds impossible.
But this is also where the Retailbound strategy offers a highly tactical backdoor into the system. Step 5 of their process is all about exploring alternative distribution channels before you ever ask for physical shelf space.
So bypassing the physical store entirely at first?
Yes. The smartest strategy is to aggressively pursue online listings first. I mean, getting your product listed on HomeDepot.com or Lowe's.com is significantly easier than getting it onto their physical shelves.
Because digital shelf space is practically infinite.
Exactly.
Oh, I see. It's like playing in the minor leagues in baseball. You don't just walk onto the field at Yankee Stadium. You prove your batting average in the minor leagues first, and then you get called up.
That's a great way to look at it.
Or like a restaurant brand opening up as a digital-only ghost kitchen on a delivery app. You don't sign a 10-year commercial lease for a massive brick-and-mortar restaurant right out of the gate.
No, you test it first.
Right. You sell your burgers on the app for 6 months. If the digital orders are going crazy and the reviews are stellar, then you take that hard data to the bank to get the loan for the physical restaurant.
That is a perfect analogy. The .com strategy acts as your beta test. By operating through their e-commerce channels, often drop shipping directly to the consumer, you are generating the exact metrics the buyer is going to ask for.
You're building that social proof?
You build up a real-world sell-through rate. You accumulate verified customer reviews on their own platform. You prove that your back-end supply chain can actually handle their purchase orders without falling apart.
You're essentially building a track record on their own digital turf.
Yes, on their own turf.
So when you do finally sit down in that office for the physical shelf pitch, you aren't showing them like hypothetical market research. You are literally opening their own website and saying, look, your customers are already buying this in droves.
Let's put it in front of the people walking the aisles.
Exactly. Furthermore, the guide suggests leveraging established proxies.
Proxies? Like who? This means partnering with distributors or independent sales reps who already possess deep, multi-year relationships with these specific big box buyers.
Ah, so using someone who already has an in.
Right. These reps know the specific formatting the buyer prefers for their pitch decks, they know the margin expectations, and they can help you sidestep the rookie mistakes that usually get an email sent straight to the trash folder.
So you've done the reconnaissance, you've dialed in the RAM on your hardware margins, you've run your ghost kitchen beta test on the .com site, and you have this bulletproof, data-heavy presentation.
You're ready to go.
It feels like at this point the process should just be an algorithm. Like you submit the numbers, a computer evaluates it, and you get a yes or a no.
You would think so.
But the final section of this guide dives into a reality that is remarkably analog, the human element.
Because despite the algorithms and the planograms, humans still sign the final purchase orders. Buyers are individuals. They have preferences, biases, and a very limited amount of time. Building trust with these individuals is the final and honestly often the most frustrating piece of the puzzle.
The guide is very prescriptive about this too. It stresses that brands must physically show up.
Face to face.
Right. You have to attend the major industry trade shows, the national hardware expos, the networking events. You have to stalk the convention center halls to meet these buyers in person.
And it's not easy.
And when you do follow up via email or LinkedIn, the golden rules are to be professional, be incredibly concise, and above all, possess a superhuman level of patience.
You have to remember the environment of a trade show. I mean, a buyer might walk past 1,000 booths in 3 days. They are exhausted.
Right.
They are overwhelmed.
So totally burnt out.
Yeah. So the source material warns manufacturers that initial rejections, or just being completely ignored for months, is the statistical norm.
Yeah, it's not the exception.
It is not an anomaly at all. It is just the first step of the dance. Many of the legacy brands you see dominating the aisles today faced years of rejections before landing their first national rollout.
Years! That's insane. So what does this all mean? When you step back and view this entire roadmap holistically, it strikes me that this isn't just a guide on how to sell a product.
What is it then?
It's a filtration system. The entire process, the margin checks, the online beta testing, the endless trade show follow-ups, is designed to test the endurance of the company itself.
That's a very sharp observation.
It sounds like you're not just selling a hammer or a drill. You are proving to the buyer that your entire organization has the operational grit and the financial stability to actually survive inside a multi-billion-dollar retail ecosystem.
This raises an important question, though. How should a brand metabolize that inevitable rejection?
Right, because it's going to happen.
Exactly. The most successful manufacturers, they don't view a no as a permanent door slamming shut. They view it as free consulting.
Free consulting. I love that.
Yeah, they use every rejection to ask the buyer, what data was missing for you? Was the margin too tight? Was the packaging off?
And then they just iterate.
They take that feedback, they go back to the factory, they refine the product, they tighten the supply chain, and they return the next year with stronger data. In big box retail, a no is often just a not yet.
It's a continuous, brutal loop of improvement.
It really is.
So to pull all of this together for you, the listener, the journey from your garage to the aisles of a Home Depot or Lowe's is a masterclass in strategic alignment.
Absolutely.
First, you have to execute the reconnaissance to ensure you are filling a genuine gap, not just cannibalizing existing sales.
That missing dessert.
Exactly. Second, you have to engineer your margins and your physical packaging to perfectly match the retailer's massive logistical infrastructure.
The pallet geometry.
Third, you have to bypass the front door and build a digital track record of sell-through rates online. Play in the minor leagues.
Build that proof.
And finally, you have to distill all of that data into a pitch that minimizes the buyer's risk while relentlessly working the trade show circuit to build human trust.
It is a phenomenal amount of work. Retailbound obviously provides this roadmap, because they offer consulting services to help brands navigate these exact hurdles.
Which makes sense given how complex it is.
But the underlying universal lesson here is that achieving big box distribution is a marathon of strategic preparation. It is never about having a lucky meeting. It is about systematically removing every single reason a buyer might have to say no.
It fundamentally changes how you look at the store.
It really does.
The next time you are wandering down that hardware aisle, smelling the cut pine and looking at those towering shelves, don't just view the products as items for sale. View them as survivors.
They really are survivors.
Every single box sitting on that shelf has survived a brutal, data-driven gauntlet of margin checks, pitch decks, and buyer rejections just to make it into your shopping cart. It makes you wonder, what incredible products didn't survive the gauntlet simply because their packaging was an inch too wide.
It's wild to think about.
But looking at how tightly this entire system is driven by data, it leaves me with one final thought to mull over.
What's that?
Well, if the entire goal of this process is for buyers to rely purely on sell-through velocity, margin math, and digital track records to minimize their risk, how much longer will the human element even exist?
That's a good point.
Right. It makes you wonder if 10 years from now, brands will even bother attending trade shows. Or if the fate of a product will simply be decided by an AI supply chain algorithm silently calculating shelf space yields in a server room somewhere, completely removing the human buyer from the equation altogether.